How many notifications do you get on an average day? Is it 10? Is it 20? How many times does something beep at you? Depends on who you are, depends on what kind of a life you lead, depends on how many social media you use. But I think on average, a lot of us are getting notified a lot of the time of one thing or another. Given the number of applications for phones and websites on computers that ask you for notifications or, just give you notifications, whether or not they ask, the average amount of notifications the average person gets is pretty high. Not only that, but also you're being basically yelled at everywhere in public. You look around and the advertisements are so common that they just kind of blend into the scenery. You don't really notice that they're there because, well, they're everywhere. But if you stop and look, if you stop and pay attention to every single advertisement you see, every logo, every ad recommending a product, even every just product placement. You watch a TV show and there's a cup for Subway, or you're walking down the street, somebody's carrying a bag and the bag has a logo on it. I'm currently wearing an advertisement on my shirt. They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. And this has an effect on our perceptions. It's so common that we're not even really noticing most of the times we're seeing ads or hearing notifications, but your brain is noticing it. It's definitely there. And it's drawing our attention away from whatever it is we're doing. It's very difficult to actually concentrate on anything anymore. I certainly can't concentrate on anything in any long term. And this is part of why I gave up scrolling for Lent, is like there's just too much information coming in. And that information is lowering my threshold for arousal for information to a point where I can't actually focus on anything. Because even if there's no stimulus, I'm still looking for stimulus in order to occupy this habituation to more and more and more attention. The internet didn't used to be like this. I was an early adopter of the internet back in the late 90s or so, and it wasn't nearly as frenetic in terms of its advertising, in terms of its attention-grabbingness. You were basically on your own to decide where it was you were going. And yeah, there was the occasional banner ad, and yeah, pop-up ads were definitely a thing back in those days, but it was not suffused into every single aspect of the environment. You could definitely go to places where advertising was not a thing, where you were basically making your own decisions as to what you were looking at and what was coming up. There was no push notifications in those days either. Yeah, there was instant messenger applications, but that would be something you would specifically have turned on, and some of them weren't even turned on by default. You would actually have to turn on a notification sound in order to get notified of an email or something like that. But, of course, this has all changed. When the marketing became the business model for the vast majority of internet commerce, it made it such that advertising is the dominant force for traffic on the internet. Every free service is actually being paid for by you, the person viewing it. Your eyeballs are what's being sold to the actual customer, the advertiser. Same thing with notifications on your phone. The more time you spend looking at the application that has the ads in it, the more money the person who is making the ads is making. These guys are certainly distracting too. And so there's a financial incentive to notify people, to bring them back to the app, to bring them back to the website as much as possible, which is why everything beeps so much, everything dings so much. The default settings for the Facebook app, for example, notifies you every time somebody comments, every time somebody likes a post of yours or a comment of yours. And not only just does it make a dinging noise, but it also emails you if you don't respond to the dinging noise. And to turn that stuff off is not immediately obvious where to do that. I have a lot of elderly friends, senior citizens, who didn't really grow up with this technology. And so I've had to help a lot of them try to figure out how to turn off these notifications because they just don't want it. And a lot of them are under the impression that you should pay attention to every single one of these notifications because, there's content there. So this is somebody trying to send you a message. So you should pay attention to that. But that's not really how it's designed. That's not really what it's for. But that's the impression that it gives. And this is bad for a couple of different reasons. The main one, the obvious one, being like our attention spans have gone to shit. The other problem being that if we're under the impression that everything's important, if we pay attention to all of these notifications, it's very difficult to tell what's actually important. They all are notifying, they're all trying to gain our attention, some more strenuously than others, but it's hard to tell what we should actually be paying attention to at all. And yeah, some of the stuff that you really should be paying attention to, it ain't on your phone. Taken as a whole, this has the effect of generating noise, a constant stream of background radiation that you can hear through it. You can definitely hear stuff over the noise, but it makes it a little bit more muddied. It makes it a little bit more difficult to hear the signal over all the noise. And so here we sit in this social environment, this environment that we're supposed to be interacting in, supposed to be building community in, but so much of it is suffused with just nonsense, just noise, such that sometimes we miss what's important. We can't even hear it because it's just this constant background of ding, ding, beep, 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 hiss. So what do we do about this? Well, on an individual level, turn off your fucking notifications. Like, go through every app that makes a noise, that makes a notification, carefully inspect whether or not you need that notification, and turn it off if you don't. You certainly don't need to be notified every time somebody makes a comment on your post or likes one of your posts or likes a comment or something like that. That's just narcissism. That's this drive to feel embodied and validated by a quantified mechanism. What you're really looking for is genuine human interaction. And if that's what you're after, this isn't doing it. This is giving you the facsimile of it, the mere idea of it that's ultimately not satisfying. And it's an addiction of itself. I've been working on a script for a video about addiction, and it's taking a lot longer than I thought because the more I think about it, the more there is to this. The traditional form of thinking about addiction is like you do a drug and your brain becomes habituated to the drug, and then when you don't have the drug, your brain is like craving that thing because it can't compensate, it can't make the brain chemicals. But that's not really all that addiction is. Addiction is a way of managing discomfort. It's a way of managing pain, to numb out the sensations of ugh in yourself, in your world, in your society. And this addiction to notifications fits into this very well, because it's very easy to be distracted away from the discomfort that you're feeling if you're getting a constant stream of ding, 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 narcissistic validation. What you're really craving is a fundamental sense of connectedness, sense of community, a sense of being part of something, a sense of wholeness. But this is not being given by these notifications, by these social media validation schemes. It's giving you a facsimile that feeds an addiction by temporarily anesthetizing away that sense of disconnectedness and alienation and just general ugh. But it doesn't actually get you anywhere. It doesn't actually give you the thing that you really do crave. And yeah, for a lot of us, that's unavailable. We're stuck in very isolated situations. We're stuck in places that doesn't really have that sense of connectivity. We might not have the friends or the family or the community around us that could really satisfy that itch. I don't know how to solve that without rejigging our entire society, but all I can say is that be conscious that what you're getting through social media is not the real thing. It's not what you're really after. And I'm not going to moralize about like, don't do social media, don't do the thing that you're addicted to, because I do it too. It's an understandable reaction. It may be a cheap facsimile, but it's something. It's better than nothing, I guess. But there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way to build community that's outside of this commodified realm. yeah, we need to demonetize social media. We need to do something structural to change the online environment, but I don't know how to do that. But if there weren't a motivation to keep your eyeballs on the screen for as long as possible, if there weren't an advertising focus to social media, then it would be less likely to be continuously bringing you back, sending you notification after notification, and giving you this cheapened version of sociality that's never really satisfying. I should hope that we can do that. I would hope that we can build a social media environment that can solve that issue. But again, I don't know how. Anyway, I make these videos daily, and this one's just kind of a random musing, so maybe another one more structured will happen tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.